There was just a bullet wound in the back of the head, the exit in the frontal side. The man's body was examined just now. Also, there is a passport for this grave. The data will be identified. 100% it was execution, and this person was shot.
Ukrainian law enforcement officers are completing the exhumation of mass graves in Izium. A total of 447 bodies were retrieved. Most of them had signs of violent death and torture.
In this city, the Joint Investigative and Prosecutorial Group found corpses with a rope around their necks, with broken limbs, with amputation of male genitals, and also with gunshot wounds.
The bodies were sent for forensic examination to identify them.
We have examples when people have already applied that their relatives were found and they were directly buried here. But this process will be very long.
The bodies of 22 Ukrainian servicemen were also found at the site of the mass burial. Some had their hands tied and there are signs of torture. Military chaplain Yuri Potikun recognized 3 of his fellow soldiers among them.
Horror in Kharkiv, horror in Mariupol, horror in Bucha, horror in any city. In any city I drive through. I was driving here through Balaklia and saw destroyed houses. Someone died there. Tragedy is individual, it cannot be mass. And pain for every killed person, unknown killed person.
Exhumation sites, torture chambers and destroyed houses in Izium were shown to ambassadors from the more than 20 countries.
Russia has committed systematic war crimes in Ukraine from day one of its invasion. The President of the Russian Federation and the government that he leads have made it absolutely clear that their objective is to destroy the Ukrainian nation.
Estonia has been occupied, and what Russians did in the beginning of 1940s or during the 40s, even beginning of 50s, it's exactly the same. And I can absolutely understand when Ukrainians are saying, we don't forget, we don't forgive.
EU officials have stated that Ukraine will receive all the support it needs to win the war and bring Russian war criminals to justice.
What we have witnessed today here at this mass burial site and in the city of Izium bears all the marks of most heinous war crimes. These war crimes must be tried in court, and after having visited this site, for which one really does not have words, it is clear that an international tribunal must be established as soon as possible, and all the perpetrators must face this tribunal.
Izium was occupied by Russian troops on April 1st. Previously, more than 1,000 civilians were killed in the city in 6 months. Almost 70% of high-rise buildings and more than 80% of urban infrastructure were affected.
It is school number 8. There number 12. They are destroyed.
Locals say that this school survived both the First and the Second World Wars. Several generations of Izium residents studied there. 14-year-old Roman was in the city during the occupation. He tells how he survived with his mother and younger brother and sister. There was no gas and electricity, food was cooked on a fire. Before his eyes, people who lived in the next building entrance died. On September 10th, the armed forces of Ukraine liberated Izium, and a few days later the Russian invaders bombed Roman school.
It all exploded. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning. Heard it all over the area. The next morning some lamps were laying around. Nothing remains of the school. It's hard to live like this. At any moment they can shell and kill me.
A joint rescue detachment arrived to help rebuild Izium, which had suffered from Russian shelling. The debris on the territory of the school is being removed. About 110 tons of debris have already been taken away.
We had a lot of engineering equipment, rescue vehicles, and people who were on the street saw this convoy. They greeted us, they waved hands to us. Even in Chuhuiv there was a roadblock at the turn. There were small children with toy rifles. They proudly waved Ukrainian flags. Yesterday, the family came to this school where girls studied. Her mother began to cry. Of course, I had to calm the family down. We assured them that we will rebuild everything, that everything will be fine. And then, after about half an hour, they bring a handmade doll and said that it is for the protection of all our rescuers.
Before the full-scale invasion, more than 46,000 people lived in Izium. Now there are about 15,000 left in the city. Rebuilding of the destroyed infrastructure is underway. Reported by Sergei Kulas, Nadia Sukharukova, UATV News.